Back to another YouTube video. Today I'm going to be showing you how to edit your car photos and make that shit look pretty freaking cool. So let's get right into it. So this photo was donated by a guy on Discord, which I'm currently trying to get his ad so I can shout him out, but this is a pretty good photo. So I want to show you how to get a pretty cool looking photo for your Instagram, or just to represent yourself in a car community, or basically let's get right into it. So essentially what I'm going to recommend is just to use your selective filters. If you do have access to gradient filters, your gradient, your radial, your drawing or paint mask, use them. Anyways, it's going to make life a fuck ton easier for you to make these adjustments. So the first thing I want to do is I'm using Luminar. Just keep that in mind. So these edits may be looking a little bit different if you're your normal Lightroom user or some other program, but essentially the tips I give you will remain the same. So I'm going to start off with a local masking tool. You can use your paint mask for this, but I'm going to jump in right with a gradient. And the first thing I want to do is make the adjustment for the lower part of the photo. One moment. So the first adjustment I want to make is for the lower part of the photo. So I'm just going to grab a gradient tool. Now, your eyes tend to gravitate to the lightest part of the photo, or whatever light is. That's just an evolutionary trait, I'm assuming. But that's the first thing that's going to grab the attention of the viewer. So the first thing I want to do, since it's a night photo and we do have an already dark photo, it is the night, I'm just going to make the ground a little bit darker than the rest of the photo. So we can just bring down the exposure on that, bring down the shadow on that, and instantly we have that going on there. Now that's already a vast improvement. Now I do realize this photo is not exactly centered, so I do want to make that correction right off the bat before we get into anything else. Just super simple. I'll just go ahead and resize that there, and that should be, it looks about right. Let me just bring this up a little bit. Yeah, okay. Let's go ahead and get that right there. Perfect. So now I'm going to just add another gradient tool that's completely separate. So we're going to add that gradient for the top part of the photo that is still dark. Now again, this is already like a really good photo. You could post it as it is, or just leave that as your final product. But we're talking about going above and beyond and making your product a little bit better than the rest. So I'm going to go ahead and add that gradient filter, just as I said, to the top part of my photo. And the thing is, when you're making these adjustments, you never want to go like overboard. I recommend making like minimalistic edits, like where it's not too much. So I am going to just actually lift the exposure a little bit and the shadows for the top part of the photo. Just a bit more. It is a raw photo, so I can actually push it a lot, but I don't think that's really necessary. Again, so I'm going to leave that there. And I want to add some, well, it is a night, so I was going to add a little bit of warmth. That's not necessary though. And instantly, we do have a vast improvement from what was originally there. Now, I do want to go ahead and add this really cool effect. Now, in the past, I have talked about how Luminar is a bit problematic for me, but there are some features of Luminar that I really like, and that's their glow feature. Now, shout out to my boy Chazzy Dog. He does not use Luminar, at least from my knowledge, but he does have like a similar editing style where you could use it. So it's called the Orton effect. It would give you getting a Pro Mist filter would give you a very similar look, but it essentially makes like the lights look really hazed out and kind of fuzzy. I really love that look. I've been messing with it a lot lately. I just haven't had much chances to experiment with it with my own photos, but it's really cool. And yeah, so we're gonna get into the toning next. You can mess with your shadows. Now, this is gonna look a lot different depending on the program that you are using. If it is that you use, for example, Lightroom, it's gonna be under your HSL tab, and that's gonna be like your midtones. Just heads up, HSL stands for hue, saturation, and luminance. So you're gonna see it there, pretty much where you can make all the color adjustments and add like the, mess with the color temperature and all that stuff. Here it's a little bit different, but from my knowledge, like Chazzy Dog really likes to use orange and those kind of colors. For this, you can, I really like this kind of like right in between the blue and purple here. As to the highlights, I am thinking I'm gonna use green to like complement those trees in the back. So like right there, and let's see how far we can push that. Right, boom. You already get a cool looking photo right out the bat. Now Chazzy Dog, shout out to Chazzy Dog, like definitely one of my favorite unconventional car photographers. He doesn't really keep his stuff like most others. I see that he really experiments, and I really love that. But the dude's a good photographer. Check out his Instagram. He always adds like some film grain to the photos. That's so I could add that here. They tend to be a little bit bigger in my opinion, so like let's size that up until it doesn't look too noisy. Let's lay back on that roughness there, and we can just take a little bit of that out. Let's see here. Boom, boom. Yeah. Anyways, this part is really subjective. Nothing that you need to do. You can also make a nice selective adjustment here if you do want to mess with that. And I think the best tool really to use if you're doing for car photography is your selective tools. It's going to be really useful. It's going to make life a lot easier for you. And if you ever have Luminar, feel free to try out the look that I just gave you. It's actually pretty cool. And you can experiment with these things in different ways. Use your selective filters. It's going to make life easier. Trust me. Oh, actually, I want to bring up the highlights a little bit. Yeah. And bring down some shadows. Boom. And this is going to be the finished product. So we went from this to this. Now we can go into more detail and actually erase some of these things. Just take that out. So let's just go ahead and mask that over. Let me just, let's zoom that out, and hopefully it doesn't look too messy. I'm not a good eraser. Applying. Yep, that's what I thought. Looks like absolute dog shit. Let's undo that. I should be able to do that a little bit better. Let's just up that brush size there. That's too large. Let's just erase. Basically, I'm just trying to get rid of the distractions that might be in the photo. This is not really a huge deal, but especially like for small examples, things that you might not even look at, like this little dot here, this dot here, those are things that you can really take out to like clean up your final product. The erase tool is pretty great if you're trying to just get rid of small things, but I guess if you're trying to get anything big out of the photo, like a car or anything major, I just recommend using the remove tool in Photoshop. It's a lot better. But for small things like this, it's pretty simple, pretty easy to use. See, boom, and yeah, you just clean up your photo, you get a better look. Now, I am not a sponsor for Luminar, but feel free to sponsor me when your shit gets better, because you guys can improve. But I wonder how the sky would look if, like, do they have any skies for this? Well, let's see what we can get out of Luminar. Let's see. Yep. Select that. So we got this nice starry night look. Let's see if it's trash or not. Yep, I'm just gonna pretend like this and yeah, Luminar, you're failing me. I thought this would look better. Yeah, let's just pretend like this part never happened. Let me just erase all of that off the car. I don't know why y'all would do this. You know, actually, this is kind of of a vibe though. I mean, I'd never post this as like my professional work or I don't know. It kind of looks cool. Kind of like it kind of looks cool, but partially I'm just like, what the hell? I kind of like it though. I'm not gonna lie, but I'm not posting that. Let's get rid of that shit. Anyways, this is gonna be your final product. Yeah, feel free to experiment, but selective tools, use them. Use them when you're editing your reels, getting rid of fine details. Just focus on the smaller details of your photo and smaller elements. The rest is just going to come with experience and color, color grading and how you want to mess with your photo. So stay tuned for other videos, I guess. Shout out to the guy that lent me these photos. Shout out to Chazzy Dog for being a cool photographer. And follow my Instagram for potentially whenever I start posting again.